It's been a minute since I dropped one of these videos, one of these wide receiver, tight end usage and opportunity videos using our tool over on ddfantasyfootball.com, the best wide receiver and tight end opportunity identifier in the game. Trinity, gotta trust it, baby. Follow the dots. It's been a couple of weeks, so looking at everything that's happened, the players who have balled out, some of the players who have fallen by the wayside, this is going to be a fun show to dive into a couple of situations, a few teams, talk about some players. More importantly, I want y'all to holler at me. So use the comment box, comment below. Let me know what you think about these players, about these teams, about what they might do in the upcoming NFL draft or free agency based on what's happening in these offenses today. And for those of you who might be unfamiliar with what Trinity is, all it is a score that I created that weighs the best parts of what makes wide receivers successful in the NFL for fantasy football. The target share, the air yard share, yak, yards per route run, first read target share, all of the things that go into being a successful wide receiver. We just packaged it up into one nice score and we made it into a dot. And all you got to do is follow the dots, trust the Trinity, and it will lead you to the wide receiver / tight end promised land. We're going to dive through some of those situations and teams today. I appreciate everybody pulling up. If you stick around to the end of the video and you find the information actionable and or entertaining, I ask you to do one thing: subscribe, help the channel grow, get us in the algorithm a little bit more, hit that thumbs up button. Most importantly, go to DD Fantasy Football and use the tool. We're going to pull it up. I'm going off of the screen, so y'all enjoy. Week 14, Trinity Talk, wide receivers and tight ends. Let's get it. All right, let's pull it up, and we start this thing off the same way every single time, looking at an overview of what's happened through this point in time, 13 weeks of the 2024 NFL season. Here we go, your leaders, your top three. Let's go your top five. Top five Trinity Score leaders on the season. You've got A.J. Brown, Malik Neighbors, Nico Collins, Justin Jefferson, and T. Higgins round out your top five usage on the season. 9 games played for Brown, 8 for Neighbors, 8 for Collins, 12 for Jets, and there's T. Higgins. Let's pull up week 13 and see who balled the hell out. And we know that guy, Jerry Jeudy, on the thumbnail. Yes, he had a day. He had a day. He had a career. He had a moment in time where he went gangbusters. And you see him right there, Jerry Jeudy with an 8.73 score, giving us 40 freaking fantasy points on the week. Incredible performance from Jerry Jeudy. He balled out in week 13. Look at this. The top of the list, our leader in usage for their team, rookie wide receiver Ladd McConkey from the LA Chargers, 9.74 usage score, 20.7 points in that matchup. Ladd McConkey balled the hell out. We also have Brock Bowers. And if you click this right here, if you click the receivers, for those of you I don't know, there we go. We eliminate all wide receivers and you just look at the tight ends. So Brock Bowers clearly led the way. 9.34 score, which is insane. 30 fantasy points from Brock Bowers. You got Jonnu Smith right here with over an 8 in usage score, as well as Hunter Henry. And for those of y'all who might be watching the first time, a good way to sort of just view this and process this information, the further to the right that you see the players, the better. You want to see guys to get into usage, right? Just because you're inside of one of these thresholds does not make you a wide receiver 1 or a wide receiver 3, but historically, over the last 5 years, that's where you want those assets to be. Your playmakers, your wide receivers, your tight ends, you want them inside of these tiers. That just signifies the type of usage that should traditionally yield positive fantasy return. Tight end position, Jonnu Smith balling out, Hunter Henry. You got Trey McBride right there, 21 points on 7.5 usage. Good usage from him. Mark Andrews got it together. And if we look at the whole season, let's just look at the tight end group holistically as a whole from weeks 1 through 13. Take the wide receivers off of there. Here go your most utilized tight ends in the NFL, and these are the damn good ones, right? Trey McBride leading the way with a 7.8 Trinity score, giving us close to 15 points per game, right there being used like a high-end wide receiver 1. Again, let me say that one more time. This tight end is being utilized in ways that high-end wide receiver 1s typically are used. What do we know about Trey McBride that's not happening? The touchdowns. But the usage, this is great usage. And we'll pull up Arizona and look at them as a team later. Brock Bowers, number 2, 7.05, 16 points per game. Anytime you see a player with high usage and they're above the trend line, this is what you want to see. I don't want you below it, right? I want Trey McBride higher. I don't want you hugging the line. Who is this right here? Hugging the line like Travis Kelce. What that means is you're doing like the average. You're doing what you should do based on the type of usage that you're getting. I want you to do more. When you're doing more than your usage, that normally signifies that player is really damn good. Or if you see a player down here that's underperforming, they're being utilized in a way where they're below this threshold line, what's happening? Is it the quarterback? Is it something wrong with the player? Is it injury? Is it opportunity? We'll dive into it a little bit more. And who is this dot right here? Taysom Hill. Right, tight end, classified as a tight end. 3 Trinity Score usage. Typically, players who score in that range, who use this range or have this type of Trinity Score, they're scoring 5 points per game. They're scoring 6 points per game. He's way above that because Taysom Hill is good. When they give him the ball and he's classified as a tight end, he scores a lot of points. So that's just how the tool sort of talks to one another. Let's remove the tight ends, add the wide receivers back, and you see that evidence right here with a player like Jamar Chase, way above everybody else because he's that damn good and that damn special. Everybody else that's being utilized in a 7.2, 7.5 range, they're scoring 18 points per game. Terry McLaurin's balling out, 7.15, giving you 15 points per game. Who's this right here? CeeDee Lamb, 7.5, 16 points per game. So Jamar Chase's utilization, a little lower than all those guys, but scoring significantly higher. And then another example, Velus Jones, who's not good, 3.58 score. And with that type of usage, it's not like he should be scoring you 10 fantasy points per game. He should be in the Dontavian, Wicks, Kendrick Bourne range of usage. So that just tells you, like, if you have him, guys, use this tool to eliminate players. He's a roster clogger. He's a roster clogger. That is Velus Jones. You don't need him on your team, and that's for the whole season. All right, let's go back to week 13. Let's go back to week 13 and see who we need to talk about. I definitely want to dive into Brock Bowers a little bit and what he's doing. Historically, you don't see this type of usage from a rookie tight end, hell, from a tight end, period. Brock Bowers on the season, 7.05, incredible usage on the season, and you see that on a week-to-week basis. He can go out there and win you a week. He's scoring more than damn starting wide receivers, the DJ Moores, Terry McLaurin. That is how valuable this young player is. And I want to take a look at the rookie class. Let's pull up the rookies so far throughout the season. Let's get Bowers involved. Brock Bowers is going to be added to this right here doing that. Marvin Harrison. Let's get Marv. Everybody panicking on Marv. We got Malik Neighbors, who's had a phenomenal season and a little banged up. We'll see if they shut him down anytime soon. BTJ, Brian Thomas Jr., somebody that I talked about going into the season being very high on BTJ, and a lot of people were a little concerned, but wide receiver 1 right there in Jacksonville. We'll add Xavier Worthy to this list. Let's get Keon Coleman on the list. Ladd McConkey, come on down. Ladd McConkey, you are going to enter this subset. Rome Odunze, come on down. Rome Odunze, we want you on the list. And I am just going to have some fun and put Jatavian Sanders on the list, tight end from the Carolina Panthers. So in this rookie subset that we're going to look at, we've got Brock Bowers, Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr., X Worthy, Keon Coleman, Ladd McConkey, Rome Odunze, and J.T. Sanders. Let's just take a look at what the usage is like for these rookies so far through 13 weeks of the NFL season. Malik Neighbors leading the way in usage, no surprise. 8.4, he's top 5 in the league. 16.72 points per game. It's been an incredible year for Malik Neighbors. But would you look at that? The second leading wide receiver in usage on the season, LA Chargers Ladd McConkey, 7.54 score, below the threshold line. This just speaks to the offense. The offense, the quarterback, Herbert barely threw for 100 yards last game. He's going to be fine. He's going to be good. He's going to be fine. We'll see what LA does. They definitely need another pass catcher next to Ladd McConkey. Whether you think Ladd is a 1 or a 2, he's damn good. And the second highest used wide receiver so far throughout the season. Following him, Brock Bowers at 3, BTJ fourth, 6.68 score, 13 fantasy points per game. You've got Marv, 6.55 Trinity Score usage on the season, 11.8 points per game, below the threshold line. Not a good season for Marv. No matter how you slice this thing, being utilized in this low-end wide receiver one range, you drafted him to be that. He's not even giving you what is expected. That's what the yellow line is. For that type of usage, Marv is not getting that done. What does this mean for him? He's still going to finish in a very good range. And historically, you want your wide receivers and or tight ends. Tight ends, the threshold's a little lower, but receivers, 5 and above. That's what you want. And right here, it's a little higher than 5. It's like 5.5 and above is where you want your receivers. He's going to finish well ahead of that, which is great. I don't think this is that bad for Marv. While the season has not been good, this type of score, if you use the historical tab and you look at players who are historically in that 6.5 range, and we'll take a look at that together, there's some good players and some good names, especially coming off of year one. Definitely has not been the type of season we wanted out of Marv. Rome Odunze down here, no kind of usage whatsoever, 5.6 below the threshold line, but still there. His name is popping up because it's higher than a 5.5, which spells good for Rome Odunze. We'll take a look at that. There's Keon Coleman a little bit outside of that range, 5.2. Xavier Worthy, 4.3. And who is this back here? JT Sanders, 3.74. So much, much lower down the tight end priority list. But let's take a look. Let's remember these numbers. 6.5, 6.5, 5.2, 5.6. And let's look at some historical players who scored in those ranges in years past and what they ended up doing in future seasons. So the way that I really like to use this is it's quite simple, and we'll add some things to make this a little easier as we go. But you just need to find the range in which you were looking. And right here in 2023, you had these type of players score where Marvin Harrison is. Wan'Dale Robinson was a 6.5. Michael Wilson, ironically, his teammate, right in that same range. Elijah Moore was in that range. JSN, 6.35 last season. JMO, 6.17. Khalil Shakir, a little bit lower. So let's move our way up a little higher. Got Romeo Dobbs, Josh Downs in the 7s, Shaheed in the 7s. So in this range for Marv, the closest use case comparison for him from this season going into next year, if you're going high-end outcome, is JSN, who scored a 6.5 usage score, Trinity score last year, but is averaging close to 15 fantasy points per game this year. He's gone up the usage based on the historical data in this range. If he's going to be a 6.5, 6.3, you can expect Marv's points to go up a little bit if you're expecting positive regression, right? Some of that positive regression from Marvin Harrison Jr. If you were looking on like the lower end, which we don't think he's that bad, he's not Justin Watson. The situations aren't even close to the same. Brandon Cooks below the line, Tutu Atwell, Dontavian Wicks, Gabe Davis, Curtis Samuel, Tyler Boyd. Yeah, he's not those guys. His opportunity that he's going to get as the team's number one pick last year, his talent profile, he's got 7 touchdowns. You can definitely pencil him into probably the upper part of the range in which he'll finish. And if he hits that 7 range, there's still some time for him to get inside of those 7s. And you can do this any year. You can go back to 2022. Ray, I don't like those names there for 2023. We'll go back to 2022 and look inside of that same, what range are we looking for? That 6.5 range for 2022. We got Romeo Dobbs, 6'6", Curtis Samuel, 6'6", Jahan Dotson, we don't want that. Tyler Boyd, Noah Brown, Rashid Shaheed right at that 7, Josh Palmer in that range, Alec Pierce. Marv's got to play better. Marv has got to play better. 7.2, that's Deebo Samuel right there within striking distance. George Pickens in 2022, 7.63 score as well. So those are just some other names and ranges in which Marv is currently projected to finish right now. And again, it's still a lot of seasons, so I think he can move up from where he's at. Let's look at Arizona as a whole. There's Marv right there. Marv, it is 6.55 below the threshold line. Should be scoring a little bit more than that. Trey McBride right on it, 7.8, 14 points per game for the season. When you look at this chart, here's a couple of things that this tells you. Kyler Murray, while a great fantasy asset, an exciting NFL young quarterback. He's got the contract. There's no scarcity or we're fearful of Kyler Murray going away anytime soon. When I see this right here, the first thing that pops to my mind is good but not great QB play. They're right there on the line. Based on what the coaching staff is asking Arizona to do, Marvin, McBride, and Kyler, they're all kind of they're doing just enough to be average. Just enough to be average. And that's not what you really want to see. You want to see those players above that trend line, at minimum above it, but you really want to see them exceeding. So let's look at a couple of situations where we can get an example of a fruitful offense that is succeeding. And here's Cincinnati. And this, to me, it's not a perfect chart because there's no tight end in the picture, but it's a clean chart for the pass catchers. Yoshi Vosh, Jermaine Burton, Trenton Irwin, any of those guys. There's just little hope for me moving forward that Yoshi Voss look at where Jermaine Burton is for the season, a 1.46, and we could dumb this down and tighten up the sample size, but ultimately when you look at Cincinnati, it's 2 wide receivers and a little bit of your tight end. Now, everybody is at or above the line, which speaks to the quarterback play being probably great. And Joe Burrow, we know he's fantastic. We know he's an incredible quarterback. T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, great ranges. T is an interesting case. Not going to be in Cincinnati next year, probably. Where does he go? He's got one of the highest scores on the season. When he's on the field, T. Higgins is one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. So far on the season, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, they both have. T. Higgins has played 7 or 8 games. I believe there's only been 1 or 2 games on the season where T. Higgins has been targeted less than 6 times. Other than that, it's 6 or more targets for T. Higgins when he's on the field. Jamar Chase has had 6 games this season with 6 or fewer targets, not receptions, targets. Throw the damn ball to Jamar Chase even more than what he is, and he's going to give you even more production than what he's doing right now. Let's take a look at Denver. Rookie situation out there with Bo Nix, and I know everybody's excited about Bo, and Bo's playing well overall on the season. A little, it's looking a little Kyler Murray-ish, right? But let's tighten this up. Last month of the season, week 8 through week 14, Devon Vele really hadn't moved. So I know I've talked about Vele being somebody that I'm interested in, that I want to continue to see him progress and grow, but don't ignore what you just saw here. For the entire season, Vele's score, 5.43 is his score. Just look at the dot. Watch Vele. We're going to tighten this up from week 8 to week 14. He's still right inside that range. 5.19 fantasy points right there at the same. This is probably who he is. A 5.5, maybe looking ahead to next year, he's in that 6.5 range, but that's probably where he's going to live. Marvin Mims going up a little bit, not a lot of usage, but good fantasy score. What this tells me, they need somebody else. They need another pass catcher. You take the wide receivers off of the board. Look at the tight ends down there, those 3 dots to the left. They need more pass catchers on this offense, on this team. I've continued to mock a tight end to Denver in round 1. I believe Dane Brugler did the same on his first mock that dropped on Monday as well. They need another pass catcher in this environment. Get Bo Nix some help. Let's look at Carolina. Bryce Young. And remember, Bryce Young's first couple of starts. Let's take a look at Carolina. His first month of the season, how bad this was. Look at this. Nobody above the trend line. Everybody below. Nobody higher than, what's Thielen, a 6.2. And I think Bryce might have been out by week 4. Let's move it. Let's move it back. Yeah, week 2, week 1 through 3, just nasty, disgusting. Let's go week 8 through week 13 and look at how this environment has changed and look at how good Bryce Young is. This has gone from a receiver show to a damn quarterback show. Now, Leggett, Coker, and David Moore all below the line. But my God, Bryce Young is utilizing players in a range. And if you started any one of these 4 pass catchers over the past 4 weeks of the NFL season, sure, there would have been some weeks where you don't want to start them because they don't play. But by and large, Thielen, 16 points per game. Leggett, almost 10.5 points per game. Coker, 10 points per game. David Moore, 9 points per game. Bryce Young is playing better. This is what you want to see. Now let's flip-flop. Let's get some of those pass catchers above that trend line, above that regression line, up there with Adam Thielen. You look at these names, Thielen and David Moore and Jalen. Get Bryce Young a Teteroa McMillan. Get him a T. Higgins. Get him a true number one outside wide receiver to pair with some good players here. And there's JT Sanders moving his way up. This is bullish. I wanted no part of Carolina at the beginning of the season, but looking at what's happened, what Dave Canales is doing with his offense, following the dots, trusting the Trinity, this lets me know that this is a decent offense, man. It's a decent offense, and it's longer than a month. Week 8 to week 13 is longer, but this is good. Look at this. We tightened up 10 through 13. Jalen Coker, the usage is sky high. The points aren't there. Look at that. 6.15, 8 points per game. 11 points per game for Moore, and Adam Thielen still doing his thing over the last 3 weeks of the season. So this is, all these time frames talk to one another. They talk to one another, but we got to go to Cleveland. Let's go to Jerry Jeudy. It's not sustainable. He jumped from wide receiver 30 in receiving yards to fifth in one game where he had 250 yards. Now, a lot of you probably listening to this, if you're not watching, oh man, I bet Jerry Jeudy is off of the page. For week 13, yes, but holistically for the season, no. Not yet. He's in that low-end wide receiver one threshold, exactly kind of where Marv is. 6.6. Marv is a 6.5. Marv is getting you 11 points. With that type of usage, Marv should be a little closer to Jerry Jeudy. He should be in that 13.5 to 14 point per game range. He's below that. That's why you see him below the line. There's Jerry Jeudy right here. Not a great overall usage score for the entirety of the season, but you see how productive he's been. And the interesting thing about Jeudy, the interesting thing about Jerry Jeudy is this, and I want to do this first. Let's go Jeudy. We're going to search his name individually and just ISO Jerry Jeudy. This is him for the 2024 season. 6.6 score. Let's go back to 2023 for Jeudy. 2023, Jerry Jeudy, 5.8. Let's go back to 2022. So you see him still inside of the threshold, still inside of that wide receiver 3 range. A little bit lower in 2022, 5.61. So it went 5.61, 5.8, and he's at a 6.6 now. Let's go back to 2021. And then we'll omit his rookie season. 2021, still within that range, much lower, 6.4. So for the past 4 years, he's lived between a 5.5 and a 6.5. If I'm being conservative, 5.5 to 6.5, which is, that's a good wide receiver too. That can have some upside. It's a good wide receiver too that you could throw out there on a week-to-week basis. Let's just look at what he's done since week 8 of the season. Jerry Jeudy, since week 8, 7.85 score, 21.6 fantasy points per game. Let's tighten it up. Week 9 through 13. Sure, he goes up a little higher because of the performance. There he is right there, 8.15, 23 points. And then let's just go week 10 through 13 for Jerry Jeudy. And he's a lot higher, 8.41, 27 points over the last 3 weeks. But Ray, how do you predict this? How do you know this is going to happen? I really do try to find some trends. And I do believe that is the new edge in fantasy football, is not just trying to pick the player, but trying to identify the trends and patterns and jumping on those trends and patterns before they happen, before everybody knows it, before everybody sees it. And when you go to the Trinity Score comparison tab, you can look up a player and actually kind of chart the trend if you so think there is one. So we got Jerry Jeudy loaded up. Here goes the chart, and you'll see his dots for every game that he played. It will plot his Trinity Score and his point per game from that week. And you'll see since week 8, 6.65, 7.39, 8.29, 8.22, 8.76. So there has been a 5-week trend of him just trending up, and that's from after his lowest point of the year, week 7. I don't know what happened in week 7, but lowest Trinity Score, lowest utilization of the season happened in week 7. That was rock bottom, and then he explodes the following week in week 8. Week 9, he does it. Week 10, he does it. By week 11, he does it. By this point, you just need to start him. At this point, 2-3 straight games of this happening, and you look at Jeudy throughout the year, like everything has been really good. He's got 6.5 score, 8.64, 5.6, 7.3, 5.4. The low points, 3.88, and then this 2.5. Other than that, he's been above a 5.5 where he's historically been, and you use this to chase those trends of those players. Let's put up let's put up a fun name next to him. Let's put up CeeDee Lamb. And not saying that you would want Jerry Jeudy over CeeDee Lamb or any of that kind of stuff. But I mean, look, here's Lamb's production and what Lamb is doing, a lot higher in output because Lamb is a better receiver. So even on a week where Jerry Jeudy got a 6.5, which is good, screw the fantasy points, 6.5. Look at the usage for CeeDee Lamb, 8.7, 9.8, 9.1, 8.2. His low points are sort of where Jerry Jeudy's high moments are, right? 7.25, 7.2, 6.88, 7.98. This has turned into a CeeDee Lamb. Y'all better not panic. Y'all better, like, the usage is still great for CeeDee. And yeah, this looks a little lower because his scale is higher. Anybody that has an opportunity to buy CeeDee Lamb, do it. His low usage point on the season was a 5.5. Got you 8 points. 5.5, 8 points. 5.8, 5 points, right? Not talking about the points, but the usage. That's where Jerry Jeudy lives. He lives in between a 5.5 and a 6.5 historically on a season total. We know everything that's going on in Dallas. The quarterback play, they've got a poor running game. The offensive line is banged up. Zach Martin is hurt. The defense is no good. But when you've got somebody that usage looks like this week in and week out, you rock with it. You rock with it. You buy them. You understand that this year is the blip, not the trend. And you see some of these other variables. Like, look at the Zay Flowers experience. Right? The highs are great. When he's get that 8.4, 19 points, another 8.4, 22 points, 9.6, 29 points, 9.0, 18 points. The low points are low. It's up and down with Zay, up and down. You saw a little trend there, 4.2, 6.1, got up here to 8.4, and now the trend, it's going back down right now, 7.1610 fantasy points. CeeDee Lamb, if you can get CeeDee Lamb, do it. Please do it. We were talking through rookies, Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors. Let's go to Ladd McConkey and look at LAC. Let's look at the Los Angeles Chargers. And old Ladd, there's Ladd for the season, 7.54. Josh Palmer inside of a 5, somehow 5.27 score, but outside of that range. They've got to add a pass catcher. Tight end preferably, in my opinion. They got to add a pass catcher. There's QJ above the line. This is 2 seasons back-to-back for QJ where he's going to finish like at a 5. This is what he is. Boom, bust, asset that we know what he is. He's a boom, bust, high variance, not a very liquid asset. He's above the line. Good for QJ for converting sometimes when he gets the opportunity, but by and large, not very good. Let's look at Ladd from week 9 to week 13, so the month. Let's go full month for Ladd, and there he is. Usage is outstanding. Points per game not following. So how do you play this? Well, if you think Justin Herbert is going to become more efficient, he's going to get more touchdown looks, you buy the hell out of Ladd. You buy him because anybody with this type of usage consistently, it's only a matter of time before the points start to happen with this type of usage. Or you look at the situation and say, everybody is talking about buying Ladd. I like how he's used, but I don't think he's going to be a high touchdown guy. I don't think you can get any more of that, so I'm going to sell high on Ladd McConkey. The only cautionary tale that I'll tell you all about, Washington Commanders. Let's go week 1 through. Actually, we need to look at Terry McLaurin because it's Terry McLaurin that I want to talk about. So you see Terry on the season, 7.15, 15 points per game on the season. But let's break that down. Let's go week 8 through week 13. Terry McLaurin, where is he at? 6.6, 16 points. When did he have the blow up? When did he have blow up? 2 touchdowns last week. And it's the cool thing about this tool. It does not overinflate for TDs. So no matter what time frame you look at, Terry McLaurin is kind of in this range. Glad that Terry McLaurin is above this line. 6.66 score from week 8 to week 13. Above the line, 16.7 fantasy points per game. But look at McLaurin's history. Okay, let's go to Terry McLaurin. Just ISO Terry, and we'll go weeks 1 through 17. And I want to show you where he was at last year. I want to show you where he was at last year and how how awesome it is when the Trinity plays out and it flips in your favor. So for the entire 2023 season, he was right there. 6.29, 12 points per game, right at the trend line, right at the regression line. That was with Sam Howell. We go back to 2022. Far right, below the line. What do I talk about? This is the buy zone, people. Buy zone. We'll put George Pickens on the screen. Let's get George Pickens, if I can spell George right. Let's get George Pickens on the screen because he was a buy zone player. Olave was a buy zone player. And Garrett Wilson was a buy zone player during these times. Let's update this. Here it is. So Pickens a lot lower down the list. That was his rookie season. Right? I know Garrett Wilson and Olave were rookies as well, but rookie season in 2022, this is your buy zone. Anytime you see usage below this line, right, but past these thresholds, you buy. Because what should happen is the fantasy points should follow the usage. Let's go to 2023. There's your buy zone. Again, same players in that zone. McLaurin, Pickens, Wilson, Olave, all in the same 7. Terry McLaurin, 6.29. Garrett Wilson, so we'll just say 7 to 7.5 range. All of them in that range. Here we are in 2023. And when you get a situational change and your quarterback gets better, your offensive situation gets better, and you continue to buy in to the dots, the players that are being utilized in high fantasy scoring ways, let's update the chart for this season and look at the flip, right? Look at the flip. McLaurin and Garrett Wilson live below that line. There they are above. 7.3, 15 points. 7.1, 15 points. George Pickens, 12 points, still below that line for the entirety of the season, but we know who was there at the beginning of the year for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So let's fast forward to Russell Wilson time, and then we'll see this thing flip again, right? So now George Pickens much closer to that line. The fantasy points are going up. Garrett Wilson's still in this range, but the QB play is bad, and Terry McLaurin up there, and we know Chris Olave out for the season, so he's going to be further back. The big point is these guys, at this point, 2, 3, 4 Terry McLaurin years in their career, the likelihood or the probability that they just continue to go up and up and up is not very high. This is probably, with 3, 4 years of information, it's probably where these guys are. This is probably what they are 6 to 7.5 type players. 6 to 7.5 type players. And there's a big difference between that player and, again, I know it's a big name, but an A.J. Brown, a Justin Jefferson, even a T. Higgins. You add T. Higgins to this chart, there's a massive difference between a player that is utilized in high-end elite outcome ways with an efficient quarterback, damn the offensive line, QB play and volume, QB play and opportunity like that. Those are your elite playmakers. Let me add a couple of more names to this list because I'm just curious as to what this looks like. And I encourage you to play around with this just like this. Put names on the screen, put dots on the board, see where these guys live. I'm going to make an assumption that Drake London is right in the same Pickens, McLaurin, Garrett Wilson range. Let's see. And yep, he is. Week 8 through week 17, there's London and Mooney all in this range, and London has sort of lived there his entire career. Let's update this for the season. They're all right there. Drake London, 7.4, 15 points. Garrett Wilson, 7.3, 15 points. Terry McLaurin, 7.1, 15 points. George Pickens, 7.8, 13 points. T. Higgins, 7.9, 18 points. What do you do? What do you do? Who do you want to when people ask me, Ray, who do you want? Who do you want to trade for? It's not just the player or the KTC rank. I'm looking at all this stuff. I'm looking at the offense, the potential opportunity inside of these offenses for these players. And a lot of times they're kind of like, give me the lesser cost of them and give me the plus. What can I give you for my Garrett Wilson to get Darnell Mooney plus? I know a lot of people don't want to hear, I don't want the dynasty value. I'm looking at how the team has deployed the player, what's going on in that offensive situation. And for the first 3 years of Garrett Wilson's career, this is where he's lived. For the first 3 years of Drake London's career, This is where he's lived. For the first 2.5 years, 3 years of George Pickens' career, they have lived in this range every single season. It's probably what they are, folks. Like, there's no need to hope and wish that they become more. Look at what the team has done with them year after year. Now, if the situation changes, the environment gets better or gets worse, you adjust. You adjust to those changes, right? But other than that, the best predictor of what they might do in the future is what the team did with them in that current season. And this is what this chart, this is what this tool allows you to do, help you do in a very clean, easy way. Follow and trust the dots. Is there anybody else I want to look at before I get out of here? We talked to Jerry Jeudy, Baltimore, Chicago, doubt Green Bay. I mean, watched them last night. Let's go back to 23, Green Bay real quick. Let's go back. Just look at this chart. Reed barely there at the blue line. Dobbs right there at the red line. No other names popping up. 2023, look at this. You know? It's one of those things that at the end of this year, it's going to look very much like it did last year. Is that a product of the receivers? Maybe a little bit, but I think it's more so Jordan Love with all of these weapons, and as good as he is, he's not been able to push anybody into that high-end range. He hasn't. He hasn't been able to push or propel any of his pass catchers into that high-end range. And that doesn't mean that for a spurt of the season or sporadically, certain moments throughout the year, you're not going to have a high-end outcome. This is week 10 through week 13. This is not what you want to see. Jordan Love, the offense, his ability to get the ball to the playmakers, he's got to play better. And I ask myself, is this Jordan Love, is the receivers, or the fact that they got the third leading rusher in the NFL and Josh Jacobs on their team right now that they didn't have last season? But this is going to be a situation that we'll have to monitor going into next year. I want to take a look at Buffalo quickly. I believe Buffalo will probably be in the market for a receiver. Yeah, look at this. What Josh Allen is doing, and he doesn't have any elite receiver. He's got four guys above a 5 Trinity score, right? 4 guys above a 5. Nobody higher than a 6. Nobody's usage higher than a 6. This is a team that needs a playmaker. This is a team that needs an outside weapon. Think about how much better the Bills would be if he had one of those guys. Let's take a look at Buffalo last year. Amari Cooper's on the thing, and Stephon Diggs should be there, so we got to go to Houston to look at Diggs. Let's put Houston on the board. That way we can see where Stephon Diggs was in 2023. There's Diggs right there, way up there with Nico Collins. So Nico was a 6'8" last year, and he's balling. There was Diggs at that 7-1-7, getting you 16 fantasy points per game last season for the Buffalo Bills, and you start to break that out weekly. He had some monster performances as well. Overall, this has been a trying year in fantasy football. Receivers, it's been tough. It's been a running back renaissance. So as we progress into the offseason, I think the big thing that we're going to do on this channel, what I'm going to do, is really diving into these situations and figuring out which one of these scores, these usage scores, are going to be something that we can predict next year, that we can rely upon going into next season. Godwin's score was so high, but he's coming off a devastating injury. Devontae Adams, high score, but another year tread on those tires. How are we going to feel about him? Cortland Sutton, the same way. DK Metcalf, Cooper Kupp, Juwan Jennings, Mike Evans. It's going to be a fun offseason diving into all of these metrics, all this stuff, as we get into the draft part of fantasy football, the startup season, the rookie drafts, trades, and all of the fun things that come. This is the tool that's going to help you get there with the pass catchers. I promise you that. Trust it. Follow the dots. Go to ddfantasyfootball.com right now and try the tool out. Jay Rich has got a code. There's a link in the description. You can get in there, 50% off. The month just started, 50% for the first month. You don't just get access to the website. You can get access to the Discord community. Holler at me. There's full wide receiver usage channels. A bunch of sharp people in there constantly talking about the same stuff that we do, that I do on this show when I'm on here engaging with y'all. And I appreciate y'all pulling up. If you're new to the channel, this is what I love to do. Just figuring out the why. Why are things happening? Are there better ways to identify players? Are there better ways to identify situations and players that you don't want on some of these teams? That's what this tool, Trinity, allows you to do. And we're going to be talking about this every single week throughout the offseason. Just different theories, different thoughts. So comment below. Let me know what you think about some of these players. how some of these situations might play out next year. And let me know if you trusted it. Sign up for the channel, sign up for the website, subscribe to the channel. I appreciate you being here. Tap into all the dope content we have on DD Fantasy Football. And wake up with me and Jay Rich every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, live, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we're talking all things sports, having a good time. Y'all have an amazing weekend. Enjoy week 14. See y'all bright and early on Monday. I'm out. Peace.